Hi, Jenny. It's great to have you here. Today we're talking about I Am a Woman Who and the book. It launched earlier this year, and I'm delighted to have Jenni Harris with me, who has not only contributed in this year's book, but she contributed a chapter in the previous book as well. And that's just one of the benefits of being in the academy, Jenni. You shared your story, but you updated your story. Was that an easy thing to do?
Do you know, when you first mentioned this, I remember thinking, what am I going to say next? And they always say you've got a book in you, but a chapter, I find that's not too challenging. But then when you have to do two chapters, then yeah, I did think, what can I say that would be inspiring enough to be featured in the book?
Yeah, and you've had a challenging journey, but you've had some amazing highlights in your story. And I think one of the key ones for me was you were a young lady in the police force. I mean, you know, that's not just an everyday job that somebody goes into. I mean, you served 25 years.
I did. I actually did 26 years and 4 months, so I'm very proud of that. But yeah, it was something that I'd had quite a challenging childhood, and I really feel that going into policing kind of helped me to be able to help other people. You don't make loads of money in policing. It's not a job you go into to make loads of money. It really is a career choice, and it is something that you do because you really feel that you can give. So yeah, I enjoyed my time in policing. Don't get me wrong, there were challenges as well, like there is with everything. But you know, I always say those challenges there are stepping stones to where you need to get to. So
Yeah, and you achieved quite a good rank as well in the police force. You progressed, didn't you?
I did. It took me a while because I spent a lot of my time afraid what people are going to say about me. But yeah, I did get to the rank of sergeant, and I am really proud of that. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So you left policing and then you started your own businesses, and you've had several businesses, haven't you, Jenni? And you've achieved in each and every one, and then moved on to the next one. So tell us about some of the challenges you've had and some of the businesses you've done in the past.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So my first one I started out in was my own jewelry business. And that ended in quite a bitter divorce with my business partner. But what I learned from that was that follow your gut feeling. You know, when you've got a gut feeling, it doesn't usually steer you wrong. And I'd had that gut feeling, but I chose to ignore it because I thought I knew better. So that was one of my first bit of learning from that journey. And then I went into makeup and skincare business. I trained as a makeup artist, and I loved every second of it. And I use those skills now. And what I learned from that business was that people don't always do what they say they're going to do. and not to put all of you know, but what I learned about me was that my expectations were so high that people couldn't always meet them. So I had to learn more about myself. Why was I like that? So there was a lot of personal development on that particular journey. And that was when I really did find personal development and realized that you can change. You know, I'd always heard that term, you know, that's just how I am, and that's how you're going to be. Well, actually, no, that's not the case. I know differently now. I know that, yes, you may have started one way, but that doesn't have to define the rest of your journey. So personal development came along for me, and really did change my life and changed the person that I was. So I learned from that particular business, and then I went into health and wellness. And I learned so much in that business, not just about business, but just about the body, what we need to nourish ourselves, why we should take care of ourselves, why we shouldn't ignore those warning signs, and just to be, you know, we can have all the success in the world, all the success, all the money, but if you don't have a healthy body to live in, then it really is not worth anything. So that was my big takeaway from that. I've just gone back into jewelry, and I absolutely just love the way it makes you feel, how I love seeing it on women, how it makes them feel when that piece of jewelry is that finishing touch to what we do when we get ready. You know, we're planning an outfit and we plan our dress, our shoes, but jewelry always features in there. What am I going to put on to finish off this outfit? And I love that.
Let's just rewind a little bit, and we'll talk a bit about what you're doing now. But, you know, you talked about personal development, and then you talked about your learning in health and wellness. And you had a pretty major setback with your own personal health. And, you know, you discovered quite shockingly and alarmingly that you have breast cancer. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that impacted you, and how that helped, you know, personal development helped you get through that?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question and a great process. But yeah, so how did it impact me? As you can imagine, when you get that bombshell landed on you, it's pretty devastating. It goes off with a big bang, and it kind of forces you to think about where you are and where you want to be. And I was probably the healthiest, the fittest, the best weight I'd been in probably 20 years when that happened. And so it was a real shock. It really was a shock. But I will say this, and for some people it might sound quite dramatic, but I will honestly say that if it wasn't for personal development, I would probably have died. And I don't say that just to get effect. I say it because the person I was in the police, and they say you are a product of your environment. So I'd spent nearly 27 years in the police, and it's quite a toxic environment. You're dealing with the worst of people all day, every day. And so my thinking and the way I thought about things was quite negative. And so personal development for me had changed the way I saw things. I saw the positives in everything now, as opposed to going down the road of seeing the negatives and find an excuse not to do things, as opposed to now I always see, well, why can't I do that? You know, years ago, I would never have thought I'd have these businesses because I would have taught myself out of them. Whereas now I go, well, why not? Why shouldn't I do that? Why shouldn't I try? You know, I'd much rather that last day of my life, and I'm about to take that last breath, to say, do you know what? I tried, as opposed to I wish I had. They're two different, very, very different statements.
And obviously you've come through that journey, and you're moving forward, and you've moved forward in business, and you're quite, I think you're quite a strong lady. Would you say you've got that inner strength?
Definitely have inner strength, and I definitely got that from my mom. You know, it's in two different ways. So that inner strength comes from knowing that you're going to be okay, knowing that it's going to be all right. And like I say, when that bombshell landed, most people, all my friends, everyone that I know, all said, oh my gosh, you're going to be okay. And I honestly knew, don't ask me how, but I knew it was going to be okay. It sounds a bit cliche, but I honestly believe that I had breast cancer for a reason. And it's taken me, I'm still trying to figure out why. But my mum used to say to me, God did not make you nearly 5'10". Well, I'm 5'10", nearly 6 foot tall, with all those teeth, for you to be quiet. So, I really feel that I'm finding my way, still finding who I really am and what I've got to give to the rest of the world. And I want to use my voice. Telling my story is part of that. Using my voice is part of that, and helping women to see that they can do stuff, and they shouldn't shy away from it. Because I spent a lot of my life, even though I had that inner strength, my belief system, they two things didn't match. So the way I thought didn't match the way I felt, and that created a lot of frustration for me, and probably created quite an angry woman, because I knew what I was capable of, but my brain would not compute the same thing, the same messaging. So yes, I spent a lot of time not doing the things I wanted to do. And, I guess breast cancer probably has helped with that, because I now don't tolerate things that are wasting my time, because time's so precious, and none of us know when our number's up. We just don't know. So putting things off till tomorrow is not promised to anybody. And that was definitely one of the things that I took away from that, was I got all these grand plans of all the things I was going to do in the future. And you just don't know. The future's not promised to any of us.
That's it. You hear of people having these long bucket lists, and I always think bucket lists are for the future, and they're always, on my retirement I will, but some of us don't reach retirement.
Some of us don't get there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about doing things now, isn't it?
Doing it now. It's like we talk about, I'll digress a bit, we talk about the menopause. People talk about, oh, it's so, it's not great. I think it's a complete blessing, because it means that you've done that bit of your life, and now you're going into another phase, and we should embrace that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've written your story once, and then you've written it again. How hard or challenging was that writing process, getting it down on paper?
Do you know, if I'm honest, I didn't find it that challenging, because as you can probably tell, I've got a lot to say. So I didn't, it was, what was challenging, I think that what was challenging was deciding what you were going to write. I think that's the biggest challenge, is because there's so much stuff, and we've all got so many stories to tell in what different phases of our lives, and it's deciding which one am I going to tell, and then putting it together. I think that's the challenging part. So to say it goes without challenge is not really fair. It does have a challenge, but it's like focusing your mind, deciding what am I going to write, and then doing it.
Yeah. So full circle, and you've just launched a new business. Just tell us what you briefly mentioned, that you'd started a new jewelry business. So tell us a little about what you're doing now and what's on the horizon.
Okay, that's so exciting. So I've just started a new jewelry business, and that really is about giving women the gift that they can give to themselves. Most women, I say most women, that's not really unfair, but most jewelry that's bought is usually bought for women. And I really feel that there's so much power in buying jewelry for yourself, knowing what suits you, as opposed to opening a box and it not really being quite that thing that you like. So having that, making those decisions for yourself, knowing what suits you, knowing what suits your face, knowing what goes with what neckline, there's power in that. And finishing off an outfit, I always think is the right thing to do. But what's on the horizon? We talk about voices, we talk about talking and helping and inspiring other women. I've just qualified as a certified trainer for the Feel the Fear Academy. So the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, played a huge part in my personal development, right, going back to 2014. And back in 2014, even though I'd read the book, I was still scared. I wanted to do this, and I thought, I had every excuse. No, it's not the right time. I don't know enough. Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to want to come? All that kind of stuff. So I read it again just before Christmas, and I made the decision then that, I had got a lot to give. I have got a lot to help move women from point A to point B. If you feel a bit stuck, or you're just simply scared of moving forward, that's what I'm going to be doing next. So I'm so excited about it.
That's great. And anyone wanting to read your journey can read part 1 in I Am a Woman Who 2020 and part 2 in I Am a Woman Who 2021. Can I just ask you to share a top tip for our audience, Jenny? What would your top tip be?
My top tip would be to believe in yourself and learn the tools and skills to quieten that chatter, that negative chatter in your head, because the way you talk to yourself, you are always listening. And I always say, would you speak to your friends the way you talk to yourself?
Great top tip. Great top tip. Love it. And it's been great chatting to you today, Jenny. I know that, anyone reading your story will be totally bowled over and inspired as I was reading it. And thank you for sharing your story in I Am a Woman Who.
And thank you for having me.